Alright. I'm gonna try to sync up audio while moving. I don't think it's going to work, but 1, 2, 3. Highly doubt that will work, but we'll try it. So, on my list today, going straight to the little spot that I like to do wheelies at here in my little section of the world. Kind of one of the only spots close by that I'm comfortable with. And actually, now's a pretty good time to sync audio. 1, 2, 3. We'll roll with that. But one of the only little spots that I'm comfortable doing wheelies at. Which this bike is great at, obviously. It's a derivative of the MT-09, so it's inherently going to be a great wheelie machine, and happens to be the bike that taught me to wheelie, at least a little bit. I'm not spinning around in parking lots since I can barely hold the wheelie up for any length of time. I probably have learned bad habits learning to wheelie on this rather than a more low-powered bike. And I'm sure by wheelie standards, I am in the lowest percentile of ability to wheelie. As you can see by that terrible attempt. As well as that one. I'm not feeling it today, apparently. No, this thing wheelies just fine. I'm just being scared and not hitting it. Oh, this thing's amazing. I tend to just not hit the throttle hard enough when I'm clutching up like that. And I always think there's something wrong with the bike, and it's always just that I'm not pulling the throttle enough. I'm not twisting my wrist hard enough. That's always what it is. If I give it a bit more juice here, I will actually manage to get the thing up. There we go. This thing is just... This bike doesn't get old. It really doesn't. I've been obsessed with it since I've gotten it. I haven't wanted it. I've had it a little bit over a year now. I'm not sure there is a need for any bike other than this one. It is the perfect amount of everything, the perfect amount of power. The riding position is great, if not a little uncomfortable. Not as good as like the MT-09, I believe, has a less aggressive riding position sitting on one, less aggressive than this, but not to say that this is an aggressive riding position, because it isn't. But in terms of power, you don't need any more than this bike provides. I mean, why would you? It's, oh my gosh. It's everything I've ever needed. And realistically, like an MT-07 is also probably enough power, right? In my opinion, it is. I've considered getting an MT-07 ever since I have gotten this bike. And I don't know. This is my little wheelie spot. But in terms of the MT-07 versus this bike, right? Like, I've never felt like I even needed all of the power that this bike has, right? Like, even this bike, I don't need all of it. And I found myself just wondering, you know, do I just need an MT-07? Is that all I need? Is that the penultimate pinnacle of the perfect amount of power? Never need anything else? Maybe. I could probably, who knows, maybe I could learn to wheelie a bit better on that one than this. Oh! Alright. Getting a little too happy straight away. And what I really need, you know, is to learn on something that's not as powerful as this, so you can actually, and I understand that you can actually learn to wheel, right? And not just go to the end of the bike's engine first and then, you know, run out of gear chasing a power wheelie the whole time, right? I understand that that's what I'm doing. Even if I am clutching up, ultimately I'm chasing a power wheelie. And I'm trying to get better at not doing that, right? But there is a fear, obviously. I haven't had this bike that long. I don't have any sliders or a cage on it. I just don't want to dump it. That's why I need to get something like a dual sport or, you know, like, I mean, honestly, I've wanted a DRC 400 for a little while now. It's why I need to get something like that. So I can practice not just, you know, power wheeling through first and running out of gear. Which is all that I do, right? Which is all I'm doing right now, right? I don't know how to not be terrified to go a bit higher, you know, and, because I am, you know, mostly I am scared to go higher in the rev range, or higher, mostly scared to go higher physically with the bike. Reaching balance point is a scary concept right now for me still. Oddly enough, I'm perfectly happy clutching up, you know, at 60 miles an hour and doing wheelies at high speeds, but slow speed clutch ups at balance point are what's difficult in wheeling, I would say. And I get why. I think I just let off too much is what happens. But I get why those are the difficult parts of wheeling. It's because it's difficult. It's controlling the bike at lower speeds has always been more difficult, and it translates to wheeling too. At some point, you know, maybe I'll get over my fear. I won't just power wheelies in first, right? I mean, if I could just get a little higher, I'm sure that I would be there, but fear is there of it. And dumping the bike is not something that I really want to do. Obviously, nobody wants to, but it's not a great financial decision to go around dumping your XSR900, which is, I think that's a reasonable fear to have, which of course is why everyone will recommend getting a dual sport. Honestly, part of my issue with that is that dual sports, at least ones that I want, right, and not like a 250 four-stroke that makes 20 horsepower, at least ones that I want are all still $5,000 and up, maybe $4,000, and to spend $4,000 or $5,000 just because I want to learn to wheelie on it just seems, I don't know. Like, is it worth doing it just for me to learn to wheelie better? I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. I have a lot of fun doing it, obviously. I like learning about it. And I'm trying to understand it more and more. But I don't know. But in terms of the XSR's ability to wheelie, if it had a better rider on it, it would be flawless, I'm sure. I am not that flawless rider. But first will obviously power wheelie itself. I don't have to clutch up first. I just kind of do it. But first will very easily pick itself up. Like, I don't really have to... Yeah. First picks itself up so easily. That's why when people ask, oh, should I get an XSR900 as my first bike? And no, you should not get an XSR900 as your first bike. Are you kidding me? I cannot reasonably recommend someone, a brand new rider, right? They're like, oh man, this thing's fast. I want to feel it. I think I'm just going to hit the throttle. It just... You hammer the throttle, it will throw you backwards off of this bike. Like, someone who's inexperienced and isn't ready for that, I just can't see how getting this as your first bike could ever be a good idea. I get it. If you're older, right? And you're not going to be stupid with the thing. And you have impulse control, and you're not going to wheelie it, and you're going to keep it in a lower mode with all of your supports and traction on. I guess, this bike is less wheelie happy than the MT-09, so I guess, it's a little bit better for that. But realistically, this is not a first bike. It never will be. This should not be the bike that you get as your first bike. I would never recommend it. Really, an MT-07 probably also isn't a good first bike, because I know that will power wheelie itself into oblivion in first gear as well. But hey. I don't know. I don't know anything. Don't get it as your first bike. Seriously. I mean, I've got more reasons than that. There are way more reasons not to get this as your first bike, other than just it can power wheelie itself, right? My personal opinion on first bikes is that you really should start small. And I know, there's plenty of people who will fight that, tell you that you're going to get bored of your Ninja 400 in 3 months and you're going to sell it, right? And in my opinion, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with getting a Ninja 400 as your first bike and selling it within a few months. There's no issue with that. And that's what you should do. Because when you get, this is my big thing, when you get that Ninja 400 as your first bike, that is going to feel like the fastest thing on the entire planet to you. At first. For the first few months, that bike is going to feel like a fucking rocket ship. That is what you want out of a first bike. A 400 can give you that. If you have never ridden a motorcycle before, a Ninja 400 will give you exactly what you're looking for. At first. And that's fine. But here's the best part about getting a Ninja 400 as your first bike, right? Not only do you get to experience that first time acceleration and first time experiencing the fast motorcycle, you get to do that again when you change bikes. And you get to do it again when you change bikes again. You get to re-experience that, holy shit, this is fast. You get to experience that multiple times throughout your riding career. And if you go out and you buy that Gixxer 1000 or the R1 or ZX10 as your first bike, you will never experience that again. You will get it one time. You will be like, holy shit, this is fast. And then it's over. You've ridden the fastest bike at that point. There's no new experience for you to come to. You don't get to re-feel that. You don't get to experience every different kind of bike and get a new experience with all of them. You've had the top experience. And I think it's unfortunate. I started on a Ninja 500, right? And I went to a Ninja 650. Wasn't a big jump, but I wanted something that looked modern because the 500 I had was a 2001. I wanted something that looked modern, so the power difference wasn't there, but at least I got to take it to bike meets, so that was fun. But I went from the Ninja 650 to a ZX6 after that, and that makes the Ninja 650 feel like a toy, right? The Ninja 650 felt fast as fuck to me. It was the fastest thing I had ever ridden. It beat all the cars on the road. It was so fast. And then you go to a ZX6, and you're like, holy shit. I'm on the fastest thing on the road now. That 650 felt like a toy. And then I got to experience that again when I went from my ZX6. I went from that to this bike. And now you might think that the ZX6 and this bike are pretty comparable, and they are with direct horsepower numbers. Yes, they are. but they differ in the torque vector, right? So the ZX6 felt again extremely slow compared to this when I would take off for very low RPM. So I got to experience that speed again. I got to experience it 3 different times. And now I still have never been on a CX-10 or an R1 or any leader super sport. And I hope at some point I'll experience those and get to feel again, holy shit, I thought I was on fast bikes before, and now I am. And I'll have gotten to experience that multiple times and experience multiple bikes. And some people just won't get that. They won't have that experience. Because they're going to be stuck at the ZX-10 level. That's all they'll ever have. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the beginner bike thing. Experience multiple bikes. Start on something small. It's more fun. Seriously. Go buy it used for 100. Spend 3 or 4 grand. Sell it for 500 bucks less than you bought it for a few months later. Basically, you have not... Oh, shit. Tons of gravel. Basically, you have not lost out on any money by doing that, essentially. I mean, you could probably sell it for the same amount you bought it for, but... Oh. Interesting. I always get paranoid about second gear not wanting to come up. Or at least not come up quickly. I'm like, is my chain too loose? Am I destroying my gearbox by repeatedly wheeling? I don't think so. But yeah, anyway. What's that? Ugh. It's a lot of fun. Buy one. Seriously. Go buy one. Now. If it's not your first bike, that is. If it's not your first bike.